Take a trip with us as we look into the case of Jeronique Cunningham and Cleveland Jackson, two friends who went on a lick and it didn't go as planned. In the early morning of January 3rd, 2002, Cunningham met his friend, LaShane Lyles, at the home of Cunningham's sister, Tara Cunningham. After discussing the drug transaction, Shane and Cunningham went to Shane's apartment on East Eureka Street in Lima, where Shane sold Cunningham crack cocaine. Later that afternoon, Tara saw Cunningham and Jackson. According to Tara, Cunningham was whipping off a gun, and Jackson was whipping off a clip with bullets in it. Tara heard Jackson tell Cunningham that he was going to hit a lick, i.e., rob someone.
Get against the wall. Get against the wall. This wall over here. This wall over here. Don't turn around. If you turn around, I'm going to shoot you in your leg. This way. This way. This way. Get against the wall. Get against the wall. Tell your purse. Take out your wallet. Take off your ring. If I tell you again, I'm going to shoot you in your fucking leg.
And Jackson mentioned Shane Lyles. In the evening of January 3rd, Cunningham and Jackson went to Shane's apartment. Shane was not home, but several family members and friends were there. Shane came home shortly thereafter, and Cunningham told Shane that Jackson wanted to purchase drugs. Shane and Jackson then talked about drugs on the staircase near the living room. While Shane and Jackson talked, Cunningham sat in the living room and watched a movie with the teenagers Coron Lyles and Dwight Goodlow Jr. As Shane and Jackson continued to talk, Cunningham stood up and ordered Coron and Goodlow into the kitchen. When Coron and Goodlow did not immediately obey, Cunningham, who was wearing gloves, pulled out a gun and struck Coron in the face with the gun, breaking his jaw. When Cunningham hit Coron, Jackson pulled out his gun and aimed it at Shane. Coron and Goodlow then ran into the kitchen, followed by Cunningham pointing his gun at them. Tamika Grant, Arminette Robinson, James Grant, his 3-year-old daughter, Jayla, and 17-year-old Lanisha Williams were already in the kitchen. Cunningham held the group at gunpoint. The group huddled together against the back of the wall and tried to shield themselves behind the kitchen table. Cunningham pushed the table and chairs away, locked the back door, and checked the basement for other people. People in the group were crying and praying, and James repeatedly pleaded with Cunningham not to hurt Jayla. Meanwhile, Jackson forced Shane upstairs and robbed him of money and drugs. Jackson then tied Shane's hands behind his back and forced him into the kitchen at gunpoint. In the kitchen, the group was ordered to place money, jewelry, and watches on the table. Cunningham and Jackson grabbed some idols from the table and put them into their pockets, though Jackson believed that they had more money and asked Shane for the rest. When Shane said that was all he had, Jackson shot Shane in the back. Cunningham and Jackson then fired their weapons at the rest of the group. Goodlow testified that he saw Coron's head snap back when Cunningham shot Coron in the mouth. Goodlow also heard Cunningham's gun fire numerous times and saw smoke coming from it. Goodlow testified that Cunningham pointed his gun at him and fired. Coron also saw Cunningham shoot Jayla and Tamika. Coron said that both Cunningham and Jackson had fired their weapons, and he saw sparks coming from Cunningham's gun. Tamika saw Cunningham and Jackson pulling triggers of their guns and heard more than one gun firing. James was holding Jayla when Cunningham pointed the gun and shot him in the face. Once the shooting stopped, the victims heard clicking sounds as Cunningham and Jackson continued pulling the triggers of their guns even after they were out of bullets. The deputy coroner determined that Jayla Grant and Lanisha Williams had been killed by gunshot wounds to the head. Jayla was shot twice in the head. Either wound would have been fatal. One bullet went through her brain, the other penetrated her scalp, causing a small fracture and a brain contusion. Lanisha suffered a gunshot wound to the back of the head. The bullet traveled through her brain. She died within seconds of being shot. The coroner recovered no bullets or bullet fragments from the victims during the autopsy and was unable to identify the caliber of bullets that caused the deaths. The surviving victims all suffered gunshot injuries as well. Shane suffered a gunshot wound to his back. Robertson was shot in the back of the head and was in a coma for 47 days. James was shot 5 times and sustained injuries to his head, arm, and hand. Tamika was shot in the head and the arm and lost her left eye. Karan was shot in the mouth, lost teeth, and sustained other injuries to his mouth. A bullet grazed Goodlow's side near his ribs. 8 spent shell casings and 5 spent bullets were found at the scene. 1 fragmented lead core from a full metal jacket bullet was also recovered. 1 bullet from the shooting was still lodged in Tamika's arm, and Karan testified that he had spit a bullet from his mouth outside the apartment complex after the shooting stopped. This bullet was never found. Police photographed and recovered a bullet from the front porch of the apartment, but this bullet was subsequently misplaced. John Hiley, a firearm expert for the Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation, performed testing on the shell casings and bullets recovered from the scene, but no guns were recovered for testing. Haley was able to identify the spent shell casings and bullets recovered as .380 caliber ammunition. Haley testified that State's exhibits, shell cases, and State's exhibits spent bullets were all fired from the same semi-automatic pistol. Exhibit 20 was the same caliber and possessed the same general characteristics, lands, and grooves as the other spent bullets, but Haley could not confirm that it came from the same weapon. In addition, Haley was unable to identify the caliber of .22 fragment lead core or determine whether it came from the same weapon as the other spent bullets. At trial, the defense presented testimony from 3 witnesses. William Reef, a local gun dealer, testified regarding the differences between semi-automatic pistols and revolvers. Reef explained that a semi-automatic weapon is loaded by inserting a magazine, i.e. clip, through the butt of the gun handle. Reef also testified that a larger weapon, such as a .44 caliber, is considerably louder than a .380 weapon, and the .44 bullets are much larger than the .380 bullets. On cross-examination, Reef admitted that he did not know which type of gun was used in the shooting. He also acknowledged that a .380 caliber bullet has approximately the same diameter as a .38 bullet and that a .38 round is generally fired from a revolver. Joanne Davis and her daughter Mary lived next door to Shane's apartment, and both testified they did not hear any noises at the time of the shooting. On cross-examination, Joanne said that she was taking medication that night for congestive heart failure and a severe back condition. She also verified there is a concrete wall between her apartment and Shane's. The defense did not dispute that Cunningham brandished the gun both before and during the shootings. The defense theory was that Cunningham's gun was inoperable and that he had neither planned nor intended to kill anyone. The defense relied heavily on the physical evidence found at the scene, arguing that only Jackson had fired a weapon. At trial, witnesses unequivocally recalled a revolver in Cunningham's hand and a semi-automatic pistol with a clip in Jackson's hand. Cunningham was indicted on 2 counts of aggravated murder. Count 1 charged Cunningham with purposely causing the death of Jayla Grant during the aggravated robbery. Count 2 charged Cunningham with purposely causing the death of Lanisha Williams during an aggravated robbery. Cunningham was charged with aggravated robbery in count 3 with 6 counts of attempted murder in counts 4 through 9. Cunningham was also charged with having a weapon under disability in count 10, but this charge was dismissed. The aggravated murder counts each contain 2 death penalty specifications.
A 20-year-old Lima murder case is back in the news. A federal appeals court says a lower court judge can hold a hearing to weigh 2 juror bias claims in the case of convicted killer Jeronique Cunningham. The 49-year-old Cunningham and his half-brother Cleveland Jackson were convicted and sentenced to death for a deadly drug-related robbery on Eureka Street in Lima back in 2002. 2 girls, including a 3-year-old, were killed in the attack. 5 others were injured. Defense attorneys claim the jury foreperson's colleagues at Allen County Children's Services improperly relayed external information about Cunningham to her, which put pressure on her to convict Cunningham. They also allege the juror's relationship with the victims' families played a part in her decision. The 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Cincinnati voted 2-1 to allow the hearing. The dissenting judge said previous court rulings and legal precedent should prohibit a review of the bias claims.